Good morning to everyone, and it's nice to see at least a number of people here today. I wasn't hoping to have more than 5 people show up, so it's wonderful. So today we are going to look at a little bit of cloud computing. I want to present a summary of research we've been conducting since roughly 2009 to date, about 10 years, and what we've been doing and what we have achieved and where we are going to. So, but before that, for the benefit of those of us that do not know a lot about cloud computing, I will present a general introduction to cloud computing, then zero in on the area that I'm going to present today. Again, this research work is a collaborative work. The dominant people in the group are those 3 people on the slide. There are other graduate students that have participated in and out of the research over the years. I think about 5 additional graduate students, but these 3 people have been constant in this particular work. So my presentation this morning is divided into that. We spent some time looking at the general introduction to cloud computing. Then I'll present a problem statement for the focus of the research, and then go on and move to the rest. Okay. The first question is, why cloud computing? Why is it important? What is cloud computing? What is cloud in general? And why is it that we talk about cloud? In the past 15 years, we've been talking about cloud. The reason is simple. What we have in about 10 years ago up to now is that we have explosion of data. Okay, we have explosion of data. We have a situation whereby you need to do a lot of computation, and you need that computation to be as close to you as possible. And then we discovered that actually equipping labs with computer or having a server, they are not actually enough for what we want to do. So we can look at actually bringing powerful computers together in a place which is normally referred to as data centers, and then be able to tap into these powerful computers in terms of storage, in terms of processor, in terms of bandwidth, latency, etc. So, and we doing this, there are a number of advantages that comes with it. Number one is that you have shared resources, okay? And shared resources lead to high utilization, okay? For example, in this lab, we have a lot of computer. Probably somebody use one of them once a week, maximum, okay? In that case, the utilization is not very good, okay? But then when you have something that is shared, okay, and everybody can tap into it, you have high utilization. Number 2, there is low cost in terms of service deployment and management, because you have data centers that are managed by experts, and you tapping into those data centers, you don't need to do any management at all. You just use them over the internet, and then you pay for what you use. So there's low cost. There's high scalability, because these services can be used over the internet. So it doesn't matter the type of computer or the type of processor or the type of operating system that you have. Number 4 is the accessibility. It's accessible to everybody as long as you can pay for it. In fact, some of them do have free services. And then the availability. It should be available all the time. So that's the reason why cloud computing is very important. Then the question is, why cloud? We talk about Internet of Things. Internet of Things generates a lot of information. For example, if you have Internet of Things in your house, which means everything in your house, the electricity, the security system, even your cooker, your fridge, your television, everything, they are connected. Okay, they are connected to a processor which you can activate remotely from your phone. For example, I'm here about 15,000 kilometers away from my house. I can check if my door is locked or not. Okay, for example, if there's any problem with the security system, I receive information right away on my phone, and I can actually do a lot of things, in spite of the fact that I need almost 2 days to fly back to where I live. So this Internet of Things generate a lot of information. Not only that, we now have self-driving cars, and this comes with a lot of computation. So that is why cloud is very important. We have high volume of data that need to be stored. We need high latency, we need network bandwidth, and that cannot actually be provided for by individual institutions or individual people, okay? And then there are technologies now that are in use. Virtual machines is used a lot. Cloud computing, actually on my computer here, my Windows and my Linux run on virtual machine. Okay? And that actually facilitates a lot of movement. And then you have fog, which is another word for cloud, but fog actually is closer to where the data is generated and being used compared to cloud that is far away. And then you have edge. Edge is a technology, it's a network technology that allows fog to work. I'll give you an example. In a cafe, that is, you go to a restaurant or somewhere, you take a coffee or you are drinking or whatever, you are allowed to tap into services, okay? And that services are provided online, but some of them are stored in place in form of fog, what we call fog. And then you can actually do a lot of videoing, and then that is synchronized back into the cloud computing. And the technology that allows you to be able to do that is the edge, because they push the analysis closer to the system and devices that the data originated from. Okay, so what is cloud computing? Simple. Cloud computing simply means unlimited computation in terms of CPU, GPU, name it, unlimited memory, unlimited storage, and unlimited application and services. That's the theoretical perspective of cloud computing, okay? And these unlimited resources can be tapped into over the internet. Simple. That's cloud computing. Nothing more than that. Now, the basic architecture is client server, and you have what we call a centralized deployment. Those of us who know something about database, we know what centralized deployment means. Then the computation is an offload for the application. In other words, when you are performing high-level computation, the computation is taken away, is offload, and is done at the background, and the result you receive it. In a self-driven car, you use a lot of high-level computation using all those algorithms that we have looked at during our presentation here, and those algorithms do take a lot of time, okay? Then you need high-capacity GPU to do that. Now, high-capacity GPU is expensive. If you put it in a car, the car will be too costly. So there's need to be able to do this computation somewhere, do the training, and then the testing is ongoing, and that is what we call offloading of application. And cloud computing allow you to do that. If you travel to some regions around the world, I know in my city in Ottawa, we have what we call hub now, where you can actually test self-driving car. Those researchers that are working on self-driving application, they normally carry their student and everything to that hub. Everything in that area, in that neighborhood, you have installed gadgets all over, in terms of camera, in terms of GPU unit, in terms of bandwidth, everything in that area, and you can do a lot of testing in that environment. And that is done. And in many other places around the world, in the US, in Europe, you have such area, because Setting up such a facility is expensive. Therefore, it has to be set up in collaboration with the public, that is the government, and the private that pay the millions of dollars that need to be set up. So it's not an individual setup that a university can do. Yes, please.
For the cloud computing, where is the storage kept?
The storage is kept in the data centers. Yes. I'll give you an example. Amazon. They have data centers around the world. They have one big one in Asia, they have another big one in Europe, and they have another big one in North America, and then they have smaller ones. So they try to set it up in area where two things important: source of energy. Data center consume a lot of energy. Number two, and where they can get the expertise to manage it. So that's what they do. And where the cost, of course, will be minimal. So in those centers, you have a lot of storage.
So these storage are also clustered?
Yeah, they are clustered, including the memory. And they can be provisioned in sizes through virtual machine or containers. Yeah. Okay. So that's the computer and cloud computing. Now, the cloud technology, as I said, is cost efficient in terms of deployment and maintenance, because the end user do not need to do any maintenance. All you need is access to internet, that's all. The maintenance is centralized, so it's cost effective, and the reason for that is that it decouples the services from the underlying technologies. Okay? Often when we've talked about GPU, CPU, and all these things, actually you don't need to buy GPU because they are very expensive. The smallest GPU in terms of computer will cost you roughly about $5,000 to $6,000, and the performance will not even be good. Now, you can subscribe to cloud services and subscribe to a GPU, and you subscribe it for a number of weeks or days or time that you need it. Okay, and then probably you pay roughly around $100 and something per month for the usage. And once you finish your computation,
you buy a service.
Yeah, you buy the service. You get out of the way, and that's it. Okay, so you don't need to maintain anything. So, and there are a number of services provided around. The big ones is Amazon, EC2, Google Cloud Platform, Microsoft Azure, and IBM Smart Cloud. There are other medium, small to medium size. These are the big ones that are putting billions of dollars into setting up data centers around the world. They all have free version of cloud services. So if you check Amazon, for example, they bear something, they can give you free service for a month, but that may not be sufficient for what you want to do. So those are the technologies that you have around the world. Then in terms of architecture, actually, because of the data incentive application that we have and distributed system now around the world, e.g. 5G, IoT, big data, etc., the cloud provide a design and deployment that actually allow for the accessibility of cloud computing in terms of architecture. So you have different types of conceptual modules for distributed application. I'm not going to go into that. Those of us in software engineering will know that. And then you have a distributed that consists of components over multiple cloud resources. Okay. There's one other thing that we need to know. Cloud computing is possible if you can do migration, application migration. And we have typically two types of migration. We have live migration, non-live migration. And the reason for this is that when you subscribe to a service and then you need a bigger resources, there may be need to migrate you from what you subscribe to another one. And then in data centers around the world, you will not know which data center is actually servicing you. It may be the data center in Asia that is servicing you. If you needed something that is not available there, they move you to Europe or North America, but you as the user, you don't know. So this is done through migration, okay? So it's a relocation of the component from one cloud data center to another one. Now, we did some research on live migration a few years ago. Then technology was not as developed as today, but we succeeded to actually do a live migration without the user actually noticing anything. You migrate a whole service from one processor to another processor without the user actually noticing any downtime. So it's possible. And it's the same technology that the telephone company are employing. If you bought a telephone, especially in Africa, in Asia, and Europe, that comes with 2 SIM cards and all that thing, actually you can do a lot of migration using those SIM cards. That technology is similar to what is actually used in live migration. But if you are migrating big data, a lot of resources is involved, live migration will not be the best. So a non-live migration will be employed to be able to do that in the background. Excuse me. Again, I believe everybody here knows something about machine learning, but in case somebody didn't show up when we'll be preparing this, machine learning is used a lot in a lot of things. Self-driving cars, speech recognition, web search, recommender system, and so on and so forth. Okay? And generally, we can categorize machine learning into 2, supervised and unsupervised. We've talked about this a lot, and therefore, we know that machine learning is also used in cloud resource management, and that's what we are going to look at today. Then there's this idea of workload analysis, which is related to what I'm going to present today. Generally, in terms of workload, can be categorized into a number of categories: sequential or random resource, transactional or non-transactional, computation intensive, data intensive, and memory sensitive type of workload. Okay. Now, the demand for these different types of workload is different because they are used in different environments, and the cost also is different. If you are looking at a non-transactional workload, it's cheaper because a cheap storage can be used for that. But when you are talking about data intensive and memory intensive, you cannot use cheap technology. You have to use high-level technology, most of the time, a live memory, and that is more expensive. Okay, so the research I'm about to present actually is situated within the resource provision and prediction. Okay, cloud services. There are 3 basic types. Now, when you read a lot of online stuff or something, there are some fanciful services that people talk about, but generally, whatever it is they are talking about can be put into these 3 categories. The first one is infrastructure as a service. This is the minimum. When you look at cloud stack, what we call a stack, you look at cloud stack, the bottommost layer of the cloud stack is the infrastructure as a service layer. So when you subscribe to this, what does it give you as a service? It gives you the bare machine, that is the memory, the storage, the bandwidth, and occasionally you get the operating system. In some, like Amazon, for example, they provide different types of operating system that you need to use for you. Also, Amazon can, in some cases, provide you with compilers. Assuming you are going to use the platform to program, you can have that. So it's the bottommost. The next door is the platform as a service stack, which is PaaS, platform as a service. It contains everything you have in infrastructure as a service. In addition to that, it gives you platform that you can use. If you are going to do a database management system, it provides you with a software for database management system software to do that. It provides you with certain simulation if you subscribe to that. And the third one, the last one, is the topmost one, which we call software as a service, that is asks everything about the platform, also asks everything about the infrastructure as service, but in addition to that, provide you with all the software that you need. Okay? Now, in terms of control, your control of user decreases. No, sorry. Control of user is the other way around that we need to do this. The user control actually decreases as you move up. User control decreases. Why? At this level, you have the bare machine. You have the memory, the processor, the storage, probably the operating system. So you can do whatever you want with it. And therefore, you can build a personalized security on that in terms of firewall. So you have control. If you move on to platform as a service, you lose some of the control because the platform is given to you and the security or the control you have is based on what the platform allows you to do. And if you move on to software as a service, the control is virtually gone. The only control you have left is on your data. That's all. Because everything is provided. You just send in your data, the processing is done, and you get a result. That's all. Everything is provided. And if you look at it like that, in terms of security, security also becomes a problem as you move on. Because at this level, you can still control, you can still define the security type that you want. But as you move on,
we are privileged to have Prof around, and he's going to be his last presentation with us before he leaves to Canada. And Prof, we want to say thank you for a lot of wealth of knowledge that you've dispensed on our head, and we're still regurgitating them every day. And you've left a lot of good mark with us and a lot of knowledge with us, and I hope all our team and colleagues, they will make use of them. And thank you so much, Prof, and I hope that everything you have in plan with us in terms of MOU and all those things, we'll make sure we activate them so that our students can come to your side and they will see you once again, and all these opportunities. We're working seriously on it, and we believe that we'll sort everything out.
thank you.
This will be the last section for Prof to present his seminar, and I'm sure that you will enjoy the time with him. And I have to thank all of you for being faithful and committed to this kind of course that we've started, and I think it's going to benefit you a lot. Thank you, Dr. Du, for all the effort. Thank you, our camera director. He has been very kind to us. He made sure that he recorded everything. Well, we are very grateful to every one of you. Thank you. Do enjoy the time with Prof, and Prof, enjoy yourself.
Thank you.
I'll come once again.
Okay, thank you very much for the introduction, and good morning to everyone. And it's nice to see at least a number of people here today. Actually, I wasn't hoping to have more than 5 people show up, so it's wonderful. So today we are going to look at a little bit of cloud computing. Actually, I want to present a summary of research we've been conducting since 2000 and roughly 2009 to date, about 10 years, and what we've been doing and what we have achieved and where we are going to. So, but before that, for the benefit of those of us that do not know a lot about cloud computing, I will present a general introduction to cloud computing, then zero in on the area that I'm going to present today. Again, this research work is a collaborative work. The dominant people in the group are those 3 people on the slide. There are other graduate students that have participated in and out of the research over the years. I think about 5 additional graduate students, but these 3 people have been constant in this particular work. So my presentation this morning is divided into that. We spent some time looking at the general introduction to cloud computing. Then I'll present a problem statement for the focus of the research, and then go on and move to the rest. Okay. The first question is why cloud computing? Why is it important? What is cloud computing? What is cloud in general? And why is it that we talk about cloud? In the past 15 years, we've been talking about cloud. The reason is simple. What we have in about 10 years ago up to now is that we have explosion of data. Okay, we have explosion of data. We have a situation whereby you need to do a lot of computation, and you need that computation to be as close to you as possible. And then we discovered that actually equipping labs with computer or having a server, they are not actually enough for what we want to do. So we can look at actually bringing powerful computers together in a place which is normally referred to as data centers, and then be able to tap into these powerful computers in terms of storage, in terms of processor, in terms of bandwidth, latency, etc. So, and we doing this, there are a number of advantages that comes with it. Number one is that you have shared resources, okay? And shared resources lead to high utilization, okay? For example, in this lab, we have a lot of computer. Probably somebody use one of them once a week, maximum, okay? In that case, the utilization is not very good, okay? But then when you have something that is shared, okay, and everybody can tap into it, you have high utilization. Number two, there's low cost in terms of service deployment and management, because you have data centers that are managed by experts, and you tapping into those data centers, you don't need to do any management at all. You just use them over the internet, and then you pay for what you use. So there's low cost. There's high scalability, because these services can be used over the internet. So it doesn't matter the type of computer or the type of processor or the type of operating system that you have. Number four is the accessibility. It's accessible to everybody as long as you can pay for it. In fact, some of them do have free services. And then the availability. It should be available all the time. So that's the reason why cloud computing is very important. Then the question is, why cloud? We talk about Internet of Things. Internet of Things generate a lot of information. For example, if you have Internet of Things in your house, which means everything in your house, the electricity, the security system, even your cooker, your fridge, your television, everything, they are connected. Okay, they are connected to a processor which you can activate remotely from your phone. For example, I'm here about 15,000 kilometers away from my house. I can check if my door is locked or not. Okay? For example, if there's any problem with the security system, I receive information right away on my phone, and I can actually do a lot of things, in spite of the fact that I need almost 2 days to fly back to where I live. So this Internet of Things generate a lot of information. Not only that, we now have self-driving cars, and this comes with a lot of computation. So that is why cloud is very important. We have high volume of data that need to be stored. We need high latency, we need network bandwidth, and that cannot actually be provided for by individual institutions or individual people, okay? And then there are technologies now that are in use. Virtual machines is used a lot. Cloud computing, actually on my computer here, my Windows and my Linux run on virtual machine. okay? And that actually facilitates a lot of movement. And then you have fog, which is another word for cloud, but fog actually is closer to where the data is generated and being used compared to cloud that is far away. And then you have edge. Edge is a technology, it's a network technology that allows fog to work. I'll give you an example. In a cafe, that is, you go to a restaurant or somewhere, you take a coffee or you are drinking or whatever, you are allowed to tap into services, okay? And that services are provided online, but some of them are stored in place in form of fog, what we call fog. And then you can actually do a lot of videoing, and then that is synchronized back into the cloud computing. And the technology that allows you to be able to do that is the edge, because they push the analysis closer to the system and devices that the data originated from. Okay, so what is cloud computing? Simple. Cloud computing simply means unlimited computation in terms of CPU, GPU, name it, unlimited memory, unlimited storage, and unlimited application and services. That's the theoretical perspective of cloud computing, okay? And these unlimited resources can be tapped into over the internet. Simple. That's cloud computing. Nothing more than that. Now, the basic architecture is client server, and you have what we call a centralized deployment. Those of us who know something about database, we know what centralized deployment means. Then the computation is an offload for the application. In other words, when you are performing high-level computation, the computation is taken away, is offload, and is done at the background, and the result you receive it. In a self-driven car, you use a lot of high-level computation using all those algorithms that we have looked at during our presentation here, and those algorithms do take a lot of time, okay? Then you need high-capacity GPU to do that. Now, high-capacity GPU is expensive. If you put it in a car, the car will be too costly. So there's need to be able to do this computation somewhere, do the training, and then the testing is ongoing, and that is what we call offloading of application. And cloud computing allows you to do that. If you travel to some regions around the world, I know in my city in Ottawa, we have what we call hub now, where you can actually test self-driving car. Those researchers that are working on self-driving application, they normally carry their student and everything to that hub. Everything in that area, in that neighborhood, you have installed gadgets all over, in terms of camera, in terms of GPU unit, in terms of bandwidth, everything in that area, and you can do a lot of testing in that environment. And that is done. And in many other places around the world, in the US, in Europe, you have such area, because setting up such a facility is expensive. Therefore, it has to be set up in collaboration with the public, that is the government, and the private that pay the millions of dollars that need to be set up. So it's not an individual setup that a university can do. Yes, please.
For the cloud computing, where is the storage kept?
The storage is kept in the data centers. Yes. I'll give you an example. Amazon. They have data centers around the world. They have one big one in Asia, they have another big one in Europe, and they have another big one in North America, and then they have smaller ones. So they try to set it up in area where two things important: source of energy. Data center consume a lot of energy. Number two, and where they can get the expertise to manage it. So that's what they do. And where the cost, of course, will be minimal. So in those centers, you have a lot of storage.
So these storage are also clustered?
Yeah, they're clustered, including the memory. And they can be provisioned in sizes through virtual machine or containers. Yeah. Okay. So that's the computer and cloud computing. Now, cloud technology, as I said, is cost efficient in terms of deployment and maintenance, because the end user do not need to do any maintenance. All you need is access to internet, that's all. The maintenance is centralized, so it's cost effective, and the reason for that is that it decouples the services from the underlying technologies. Okay? Often when we've talked about GPU, CPU, and all these things, actually you don't need to buy GPU because they are very expensive. The smallest GPU in terms of computer will cost you roughly about $5,000 to $6,000, and the performance may not even be good. Now, you can subscribe to cloud services and subscribe to a GPU, and you subscribe it for a number of weeks or days or time that you need it, okay? And then probably you pay roughly around $100 and something per month for the usage, and once you finish your computation,
You buy a service.
yeah, you buy the service, you get out of the way, and that's it. Okay, so you don't need to maintain anything. So, and there are a number of services provider around. The big ones is Amazon, EC2, Google Cloud Platform, Microsoft Azure, and IBM Smart Cloud. There are other medium, small to medium size. These are the big ones that have put in billions of dollars into setting up data centers around the world. They all have free version of cloud services. So if you check Amazon, for example, they bear something, they can give you free service for a month, but that may not be sufficient for what you want to do. So those are the technologies that you have around the world. Then in terms of architecture, actually, because of the data incentive application that we have and distributed system now around the world, e.g. 5G, IoT, big data, etc. The cloud provide a design and deployment that actually allow for the accessibility of cloud computing in terms of architecture. So you have different types of conceptual modules for distributed application. I'm not going to go into that. Those of us in software engineering will know that. And then you have a distributed that consists of components over multiple cloud resources. Okay. There's one other thing that we need to know. Cloud computing is possible if you can do migration, application migration. And we have typically two types of migration. We have live migration, non-live migration. And the reason for this is that when you subscribe to a service and then you need a bigger resources, there may be need to migrate you from what you subscribe to another one. And then in data centers around the world, you will not know which data center is actually servicing you. It may be the data center in Asia that is servicing you. If you needed something that is not available there, they move you to Europe or North America, but you as the user, you don't know. So this is done through migration, okay? So it's a relocation of the component from one cloud data center to another one. Now, we did some research on live migration a few years ago. Then technology was not as developed as today, but we succeeded to actually do a live migration without the user actually noticing anything. You migrate a whole service from one processor to another processor without the user actually noticing any downtime. So it's possible. And it's the same technology that the telephone company are employing. If you bought a telephone, especially in Africa, in Asia, and Europe, that comes with 2 SIM card and all that thing, actually you can do a lot of migration using those SIM card. That technology is similar to what is actually used in live migration. But if you are migrating big data, a lot of resources is involved, live migration will not be the best. So a non-live migration will be employed to be able to do that in the background. Excuse me. Again, I believe everybody here knows something about machine learning, but in case somebody didn't show up when we'll be preparing this, Machine learning is used a lot in a lot of things. Self-driving cars, speech recognition, web search, recommender system, and so on and so forth. Okay? And generally, we can categorize machine learning into two, supervised and unsupervised. We've talked about this a lot, and therefore, we know that machine learning is also used in cloud resource management. And that's what we are going to look at today. Then there's this idea of workload analysis, which is related to what I'm going to present today. Generally, in terms of workload, can be categorized into a number of categories: sequential or random resource, transactional or non-transactional, computation intensive, data intensive, and memory sensitive type of workload. Okay. Now, the demand for these different types of workload is different because they are used in different environments, and the cost also is different. If you are looking at a non-transactional workload, it's cheaper because a cheap storage can be used for that. But when you are talking about data intensive and memory intensive, you cannot use cheap technology. You have to use high-level technology, most of the time, a live memory, and that is more expensive. Okay, so the research I'm about to present actually is situated within the resource provision and prediction. Okay, cloud services. There are three basic types. Now, when you read a lot of online stuff or something, there are some fanciful services that people talk about, but generally, whatever it is they are talking about can be put into these three categories. The first one is infrastructure as a service. This is the minimum. When you look at cloud stack, what we call a stack, you look at cloud stack, the bottommost layer of the cloud stack is the infrastructure as a service layer. So when you subscribe to this, what does it give you as a service? It gives you the bare machine, that is the memory, the storage, the bandwidth, and occasionally you get the operating system. In some, like Amazon, for example, they provide different types of operating system that you need to use for you. Also, Amazon can, in some cases, provide you with compilers. Assuming you are going to use the platform to program, you can have that. So it's the bottommost. The next door is the platform as a service stack, which is PaaS, platform as a service. It contains everything you have in infrastructure as a service. In addition to that, it gives you platform that you can use. If you are going to do a database management system, it provides you with a software for database management system software to do that. It provides you with certain simulation if you subscribe to that. And the third one, the last one, is the topmost one, which we call software as a service. That asks everything about the platform, also asks everything about the infrastructure as a service, but in addition to that, provide you with all the software that you need. Okay? Now, in terms of control, your control of user decreases. No, sorry. Control of user is the other way around that I'm going to do this. The user control actually decreases as you move up. User control decreases. Why? At this level, you have the bare machine. You have the memory, the processor, the storage, probably the operating system. So you can do whatever you want with it. And therefore, you can build a personalized security on that in terms of firewall. So you have control. If you move on to platform as a service, you lose some of the control because the platform is given to you and the security or the control you have is based on what the platform allows you to do. And if you move on to software as a service, the control is virtually gone. The only control you have left is on your data. That's all. Because everything is provided. You just send in your data, the processing is done, and you get a result. That's all. Everything is provided. And if you look at it like that, in terms of security, security also becomes a problem as you move on. Because at this level, you can still control, you can still define the security type that you want. But as you move up, the security that is allowed is based on the platform as well as the software. So the only thing that is secure at this level is simply your data. That's all. And even then, if you allow your data to be stored on the other side, you have to live with the security provided. So that's what you have in the different types of cloud services. In terms of cloud type, you have only two, private and public. The third one is hybrid, which is combination of private and public. Most, majority of users of cloud actually have the hybrid type. You have in-house cloud, and then you subscribe to public one. A university can build an in-house cloud for the university community to use. In my university, we have in-house cloud. We have high-capacity processor, GPU, etc., that you can actually register into and use. And then at the same time, the center facilitates the possibility of using a public cloud, like Amazon or Microsoft and so on and so forth. And you have that combined. In many places, with government, with everything, you have hybrid setup. Okay, so that's our introduction into cloud. Any question on cloud computing? We all know what cloud is now. Great. So let's talk about a small aspect of cloud. Okay, yes?
I would like to ask a question regarding blockchain.
Blockchain uses cloud, but blockchain is not cloud. Blockchain is a mechanism, okay, to control transaction. You can use blockchain for security, for example. You can use blockchain for banking transaction. You can use blockchain for a number of things. What is blockchain? In blockchain, you have two keys, one private, one public, okay? The public key is open to everybody, which include you, your bank, your anything, the public key. But then for you to access the information, to validate it, you have to provide your private key. Without providing your private key, that is not possible. That's blockchain. It's not more than that. Now, the science is how do you generate all those keys? How do you deal with them? That's where the science comes in. So now be careful. When we say blockchain, people are always thinking about money. That's an application of blockchain. It's an application of blockchain, and it's an application that involves a lot of investment, energy use, and everything. Okay, that's it. So it's an application of blockchain. Blockchain as a technology, as a science, gives you a public key and a private key, and the implementation is set up such that when a service is sent to you or is provided, to tap that service, you need to provide your private key. And that private key has to be validated. But your private key is only open to you, not to any other person. Even those using it in money generation, that's what they do. When somebody generates something, throw it up, you get money depending on how many people actually tap into that. Because when you generate a key, a public key, it takes time to generate. That's where the energy is consumed. It's a lot of algorithm computation, okay? It can take you days or weeks to generate one key, for example. You throw it open. Now you get money from that, from how many people actually pick that key up. Because once they pick it up, they lose part of their money to you. It's just an application. That's where they make their money. But that's not the
platform or software as a service.
Look, In the cloud, you can apply it at any level. Generally, it's at the level of platform. Some software here that are platform, blockchain platform, which of course you need to program on top to be able to do whatever you're going to do. There's no blockchain out there that you can just download and say, I want to use this. No. With the exception of those who are applying it into money making. Okay? That's a different thing. Don't confuse that to science and technology. Okay? Blockchain is a technology, and it's simply about security, secure infrastructure, secure services, secure investment. That's blockchain. Now, audio, you can apply it to money making if you have the money to buy all the computer processor that you need in the world and to pay ESCOM for energy. And you can make money out of that. You may not make money, you may run bankrupt. Good luck. That's just by the way. The other thing is that you want to use it for research. If you want to use it for research, it's generally used in IoT and it's used for security. That's it. Okay? So, cloud computing, blockchain, they are not the same thing. To have blockchain, you need cloud computing because you subscribe to it in the cloud, right? Okay? So, but these are, cloud computing has been around before blockchain. It's like big data analytics. You deploy your algorithm to cloud. You compute it there, offloading, and then you send your data, and then you get the result. It's the same thing with blockchain and cloud. Okay?
All right.
Any other question? Great. Now let me warn you, because some people have had students that set up blockchain in order to make money. If you don't have access to constant supply of energy, don't dabble into it. When it's expensive to set up because you need a lot of powerful computer. It's computationally intense, and you consume a lot of energy, which you need to pay for. Now, if the energy should blink, or your system goes down, you start from the beginning. Next time. So I just want to say that because some people get wise and say, oh, I want to make money. Yes, you can make money if you have money. Okay. So now I'll go into the terminology we are going to be using today. Generally, in a cloud infrastructure setup, you have three things that actually work together. You have what we call the cloud infrastructure provider, e.g. Amazon, e.g. Microsoft, e.g. IBM. Then you have the cloud clients, e.g. TUT, okay, or shopping mall or anything. Then you have the end user, you and me, okay. So you have those three. I think there's a confusion in terms of the setup. Generally, the cloud infrastructure provider do not, all they do is provide you with the platform. You do whatever you want to do with it. And then you now deal with your end user, okay? So that's what we have there. So now, between these, you have what we call service level agreements. Between the cloud clients, you have a service level agreement with the provider. If TUT subscribe to Microsoft or Amazon, there will be a contract. And that contract is what we refer to as service level agreement. And within that contract, there will be things like availability. Okay? If the availability state that is 99.8%, which means in 100 days, that service cannot go down for more than 15 minutes, maximum 15 minutes. That's what we call availability. There will be other things. Agreement will include the bandwidth size. You know, bandwidth generally fluctuate. When you subscribe to all these phone provider company, they will tell you the upper band. They are lying. you hardly get the upper band because it fluctuates. If you take out your phone and you hold it, you move around, you will see that fluctuation. Okay? So part of the service level agreement will give TUT and say that, okay, this is the band, this is the minimum, this is the maximum. So the service has to be between the two. It cannot fall below the lower band. So many things will be included. Storage, memory, etc. will be included. So, and then between TUT and you, there will be an agreement that says that if you subscribe to the cloud service that TUT provide, this is what we are going to provide for you. Okay? And that again is called service level agreement. Okay? So, although at times universities are clever, they don't always fulfill that their part, but corporations that are making money cannot do that. They cannot do that. University can afford to do that. Generally, most universities are public institutions and a lot of bureaucracy. But money-making institutions like banking, insurance company, if they tell you we are providing you this service, they better do. Because if they don't, they'll be losing customers, they'll be losing money. So a service level agreement. So this is the general setup, okay, that you have in a typical cloud infrastructure. Yes, please.
Just a question in terms of the service level agreement.
Yes.
In terms of customer data protection. Is this service level agreement can be influenced by the law of the country? Yes,
it can. It can be influenced. The problem around the world now is that there's an explosion of technology advancement, and it's difficult for the law to catch up. For law to catch up, you need to understand the technology, which technology is moving at a very rapid rate compared to the law. Law at times is static, but some countries are coming to light on that, and they are putting in at least what they consider to be minimum service level that can be given by a cloud service, so it can be influenced. Yeah.
It's because I'm more interested in terms of the data, identity protection, data from the user. So if, for instance, the law of the government wants to get access to people's data, and then according to the service level agreement and the policies of the company, they say that they don't usually disclose those data, they say we're protecting it.
Yeah,
so how is it going to be now?
That is difficult to answer. You see, we are all scientists here.
That's what
we're not politicians. Now, whether you like it or not, the government needs to govern the country. And when it comes to security of the citizen, that override whatever rights you have. Are you getting my point? And that is why, at times, government need access to the metadata in order to do certain things. And we can be deceiving ourselves by saying we have freedom of whatever. Okay? You see, your freedom stops where mine starts. And the same thing. So I cannot trample on your freedom, and at the same time you cannot trample on my freedom. And when it comes to your security, my security, government has responsibility. And government then can trample on that freedom in order to make sure that you're secure. So that's why we can talk all the theory we want in the world and play all the politics we want to play. The reality is that government do see things. And there's no way you can stop
everything.
No, not everything. They don't see everything. They don't see everything. I don't know about South Africa, but in other part of the world, they tell you what they see. The only time they go in to look deeper is if there's suspicion. If there's suspicion, then they have to get a court order to go deeper and see more. But they don't see everything. Generally, most of the time, all they see is metadata. At times, they don't even see whether you are a male or female. They don't see your age. They don't see your name until they suspect that certain thing is going on. Then they can then go further and do that. So that's the way it is. So there's nothing anybody can do. Okay? Yeah, I don't know. Maybe that question should be put to politicians. They have, they can answer better. Yes.
And okay, another thing I wanted to understand is about data that are sold for advertisement.
Oh, okay.
How does it influence the SLA?
Now that is different. You see, I don't have Facebook. You may be surprised. I know the technology, but I don't use it. I don't have Twitter account. I don't use it. Okay? LinkedIn, I subscribe to it and I deleted it. It doesn't make anything to me. I prefer the academic something. That's me. But the moment you subscribe to a social media, you are signing up that part of your data can be used. That's the simple fact. There's nothing you can do about that.
They don't literally say it, like the data.
You have to read a lot to see it. Normally the print are very small, and that document, they said copyright, whatever it is, PDF, you have to scroll down, read line by line, and magnify it to see that you are signing up part of your data. There's no Facebook, Twitter. You subscribe to it, you are signing up your data. That is simple as that. Part of your data, not everything. Part of it. That's how they make money. You are using Facebook for free. How will Facebook make money? That's how they make money, okay? So you are signing up for that. Now, that's one thing. Another thing is that there are some people that specializes in stealing data. They steal it, their telephone number, your home address or something, and then sell it to telemarketing company. Okay? There are some people like that. That one is not about Facebook or Twitter or anything. It's just some people stealing information.
Is that why sometimes we get random calls telling us to sign up for a contract? You don't even know the company.
And you get a letter delivered into your mailbox without anything. So that's it. So, okay, let's move on. Okay, now what is the motivation for this research? Okay, any research you want to do, there has to be reason why you want to do it. Okay, now we know that cloud has that elasticity, that is unlimited. Okay, it's unlimited. We also know that it's pay as you go pricing model. Okay, good. But there are two things that we need to take care of. Now, when the cloud clients reduce the number of least resources in order to save cost, what happens? You have two problems. Number one problem is under provisioning condition can happen, because the cloud client wants to save money. Number two problem is you have reduced performance, okay? And as a result of that, SLA violation is happening, okay? Now, the opposite of it is that the client actually didn't want to save money. The cloud client wants to provision more resources in order to prevent SLA violation. So when that is done also, you have two problems. You have over-provisioning condition, and that leads to increased resource cost, which of course eventually lead to waste of resources. So our research is now to be able to balance between reducing resource cost and increasing performance. Okay? Remember, when you reduce resource cost, you reduce performance. But when you increase the resource, performance increases, but cost goes up. Now, how do you balance between the two? Balancing between the two, in general, cloud infrastructure provider use what we call auto-scaling system. Auto-scaling system, that's what they use to try to do that. Now, you have two types of auto-scaling system. You have reactive auto-scaling system and you have predictive auto-scaling system. Okay? Reactive auto-scaling consider the current performance. Okay? And then the predictive one consider the future performance. Okay? So what are the advantages and shortcomings? For reactive, it's easy to use and understand, and at times accurate. The problem, it neglects virtual machine boot up time. Whether you like it or not, even today that technology has improved, even with container, you have that few seconds. In the case of virtual machine, you have 1 or 2 minutes that it will need to boot up in order to start working. Okay? And it also depends on the operating system you are using. Now, the reactive auto-scaling has the advantage of taking care of that VM boot up time, but shortcoming is poor accuracy. Now, what can you do then in order to actually take the advantages and then minimize the shortcomings? So that's just the motivation for our research. Okay? So in the commercial sector, even up to today, the majority of cloud clients in commercial cloud use reactive system. It's reactive system, even up to today, because other systems can be expensive to put on initially. So they use reactive system, okay? But then, these reactive systems are generally based on rule-based systems. Rule-based system, okay? And then, a rule-based system has the problem of reactive nature, difficulty in configuration, okay? So the question is, can we do anything better than that? So we set up a goal for our research. The goal is to improve the accuracy of the predictive auto-scaling system. Okay? That's our goal, to improve the accuracy of the predictive auto-scaling system. In order to do this, we need to set up an architecture. Okay? An architecture of a typical predictive auto-scaling system consists of 3 things. The monitor. The monitor is generally an operating system thing. Okay? It's a different line of research, but the monitor is, with the current operating system we have today, modern technology, the monitor is more or less stable. But then, what you can control is the predictor as well as decision making. Okay? And these are the 2 things actually we can get hold of in order to improve the accuracy of what we need to do. Now, we have to take them one by one. There is the predictor and there is the decision maker. Okay? Now, what are the objectives? Number 1, we want to investigate the existing prediction techniques and improve the prediction accuracy. 2, we want to investigate the rule-based decision makers and improve their accuracy. And in order to do that, we need a number of things. Okay? Number 1, we need to know the resource cost, that is the cost of the least fear virtual machine. We need to know the cost of SLA evaluation. The problem is that all these providers, they will not give you their information. They won't tell you what is going on. So what we did in this case, is actually to use the measure of number of SLA evaluation and then get the cost per SLA evaluation from the cloud client. That's all we can do. The provider will not tell you how much it is. So the scaling cost then, we set it to be the resource cost plus the SLA evaluation cost. Okay? Then the third objective is to investigate an approach that automatically configure the rule-based systems. Right now you don't have that. There's no automatic configuration for rule-based system. And then number 4, investigate the impact of database tier capacity on the business tier scaling. I will explain that later. So, what is our scope? We limited ourselves to infrastructure as a service. As I said, it gives you a number of control. You can do a lot of things at that level. Once you move up, you lose control. We've done something at this level, which I will not go to today. Now, we limit ourselves to cloud, public cloud. That's where a lot of resources are shared. In private cloud, the sharing is not as complex as public. Then we also limited ourselves to horizontal scaling. You have two types of scaling. You have horizontal scaling, you have vertical scaling. The time we started this research, technology has not advanced enough actually to be able to do effective vertical scaling. What's the difference? Horizontal scaling, assuming you rented 10 virtual machines with certain capacity, and along the line you discover that you need more resources, you can ask for more virtual machines, 5 or more. As you move on, you can increase that. And if you don't need your 10, you can also reduce it to 5 as you move on. Are you getting my point? That's horizontal scaling. Vertical scaling, you are starting with 1 or 2 virtual machines. You get to stage you need more capacity. You are not renting virtual machines. You are actually increasing either the memory, the RAM, or the storage, or the bandwidth, or changing the processor from CPU to GPU. That's what we call vertical scaling. That was difficult 6 years ago. Starting from last year, it's possible from Microsoft, IBM, even Amazon. They now have a lot of vertical scaling that you can do. Okay, then we are looking at it from the cloud client perspective. Okay, remember, cloud client is the one that is in the middle here. The one that is in the middle here. So, and we are looking at it from that perspective because this side from the provider is about reducing cost. This side from the user is about actually reducing SLA violation. Okay, so we are looking at it from those perspectives. Okay, then what is our methodology? Our methodology is simply quantitative approach. In quantitative methodology, you have two things. You have numerical approach and then you have deductive reasoning. So in this research, we combine both of them. We have deductive reasoning, which is theory, making use of hypotheses, research, design, and so on and so forth. And then we have the numerical aspect of it that allows us to be able to do some computation and do prediction. So both of approaches in quantitative is applied in this case. Okay, how do we set up our experiment? We actually set up our experiment on Amazon. We subscribe to Amazon, okay? And we set up 3 tiers. We have the client, we have the web server, we have the database end. Now, at the beginning, we decided that the assumption is that the database end do not have or do have just minimal effect on the web server, okay? And because of that, we allocated a bigger storage with a bigger processor in order to minimize the effect, okay? Because you see, when you are dealing with resource provisioning and prediction, you need to be able to isolate the layer you want to deal with, assuming that other layers do not have negative impact on that. And one way in computing in general to make sure of that is to give other layers a bigger storage, a bigger memory, or better processor, so that the effect will be actually minimized. So we set up that. This was 7 years ago. Now today you can actually have, we have limited money to rent some of the core, but now it's very cheap. Okay, so the first thing is our proposed auto-scaling system. Remember the architecture I showed you. You have generally the monitor, you have the predictor, and you have the cost. Okay? Our predictor here will be a self-adaptive workload prediction suite. That's what we want to develop. And then we'll come back to the cost decision maker later on. So we focus on the self-adaptive prediction. Okay? Now, remember the shortcomings of the current system, even up to today, is reactive nature that we neglect that, and configuration difficulty. The configuration difficulty comes from the decision maker, and the reactive nature comes from the predictor. Okay? So the first thing we do is actually, it's not in this slide, is to use Eden-Markov model as an experiment. Okay? Now we publish a paper or two on that, which is not part of this slide, and we discovered that in Eden-Markov model, you cannot actually separate these two. Eden-Markov model match the two together. Once you set in your simulation, it will do the prediction, do the decision, and then give you the scaling. But we want a situation whereby you can separate the two and actually have a handle on that. Okay? You'll see later why this is important. So we did that. It worked fine, but we are not really satisfied with that. Okay? Then one other thing we did is to look at the workload pattern. We discovered that there are different types of workload pattern that comes in at different windows. Okay? And we are able to use trend analysis, seasonality and trend, to be able to partition into 3 workload: periodic workload pattern, growing workload pattern, unpredictable workload pattern. This can be done easily using the tool that we have used here, Weka. If you use Weka, the Weka that we use was 3.7, yes, now 3.8. So what happened is that you can generate, okay, different types of workload using Weka, and then do an automatic computation on the seasonality and the trend in time series, and then you aggregate the result. For example here, when you aggregate the result, it will give you, this is the data set in, it will give you the seasonal thing, it will give you the trend, and it will give you the remainder. And you are able to actually know what type of load it is. You can do that. So you can do that for periodic, you can do that for unpredictable, and you can do that for growing workload. So that's what we did there. When I say you can easily do it, it doesn't mean that it's like that. It takes weeks to come to that conclusion of what is periodic, because you have different types of workload that are more than those 3 partitions. Okay? And then we set up an hypothesis. Okay? An hypothesis is simple. Prediction accuracy is increased by using different algorithms for different workload patterns. Okay? Remember I told you we use HMM, Eden-Markov model. We got the result. After that, we experimented with neural network, simple linear regression, and support for vector machine, and we got some results also. Okay? So, and it's after all those studies, we set up this particular hypothesis. Okay? And the hypothesis, if you look at it carefully, it's talking about 2 things: different algorithms and different workload pattern. Which means that if the workload pattern is periodic, one algorithm may work better than the other one. If the workload pattern is growing, a different algorithm may work better here. So that's something. I've explained the workload pattern. Then we set up to look at 3 algorithms. And there's a reason for this. I'll come to that in a few seconds. We set up support vector machine. We did a series of simulation over time to come up with the best kernel. So our best kernel was the RDF kernel. And because generally support vector machine is about classification, in general, classical, but we want, because we want to compare apple with apple, so we impose an optimizer that will now regulate the support vector machine into a regression mode. Okay? So that's what we did. Then we choose 2 variants of neural network: multi-layer perceptron and multi-layer perceptron with weight decay. Okay? Now, we set them up to be equal. The only thing that is different is that for this, the decay is false, and for this, the decay is true. Okay? So that was separated. Now, the question again is, if we look at this, actually I want to show you Okay, maybe we'll come back to that. So we have these three algorithms, and then we use it to perform our simulation. Okay, this that you are looking at is actually minutes. So roughly, the graph you look at is 185 minutes. It's more than that, but just for this presentation, we are presenting that. So this is the actual. The actual is the blue. The multilayer perceptron prediction is the red. The multilayer perceptron with weight decay is the green. And then the support vector machine is the purple. Okay? Now, as you see them, there's no difference at all. More or less, they have the same pattern, which is okay. But if you perform statistics on them, actually you will see the differences. So this is for periodic pattern. And this is an example for the growing pattern. Again, the same thing as before, okay, for the growing pattern. And this is an example of a simulation for the unpredictable pattern, okay, predictable pattern, okay. As you know, unpredictable pattern is that can go down, go up many times. It's unpredictable pattern, okay. So we did that now. And then we carry out analysis using some statistics to carry out the analysis to be able to determine which algorithm is good for which workload pattern. But before then, there's this theoretical background in the algorithm that we use. Now, for those of us who have attended the machine learning thing, this will not be new. There's the empirical, okay, empirical, and there's the structural, empirical risk minimization, ERM, and there's the structural risk minimization, okay. In general, all linear regression, multi-layer, whatever it is, they are based on empirical, okay, risk minimization. And other ones that are classification, such as support vector machine, are based on structural risk minimization. Okay? Now, maybe a little bit of theory here before we move on. Empirical risk minimization find the most accurate regression model over the training data set. Okay? Also, ERM increases the complexity of the regression module. This is referred to as the VC dimension. I will go into mathematics. And this is done to increase the accuracy. Okay? Now, when the training and the testing data set are very similar, ERM performs very well. Performs very well. Okay? And the reason is explained in that mathematics here. Now, what happens is that when you look at the quantity, which is L over H, when that quantity is large, which means H is small, ERM performs well. When that quantity is small, which means H is large, ERM does not perform well. If you remember when we talk about support vector machine, you know that hyperplane, the boundary, if you remember that, that's what is going on here. Okay? So if you look at, if H is large, the empirical risk minimization performs very well. If H is small, the empirical risk minimization does not perform well. Okay? So, and then what happens? What differentiates the two of them? ERM does not control regression module complexity H. Empirical has no control of that. Now, but structural controls the regression module H. That's why the hyperplane can be reduced or increased because support the SRM control that. Okay? So, and now, when time series complexity increases, ERM generally increases H, but SRM does not. So if time series complexities increase because of noise, this implies that SRM is better. when you have a lot of noise, SRM is better, okay? Because SRM generally will not capture the noise, okay? Contrary, if the time series complexity increases because of not having trend as seasonal factors, that is, there's no noise, but it's a problem of trend, the ERM is better. So those are the theory behind it. But forget about all that. Let's come back to our prediction here. So we can conclude that SRM, that is structural risk minimization, is more suitable for periodic and the growing workload patterns. Periodic and the growing workload pattern. Because these do not have a lot of noise. But ERM is more suitable for unpredictable workload pattern because of the high level of noise you have here. So then we carry out a simple arithmetic, making use of the two statistics, MAE and root mean square error, mean average error and root mean square error, to look at the different workload pattern. This is for periodic pattern, 2. This is for growing pattern, and this is for unpredictable pattern. And our conclusion is simple. For periodic pattern, the multilayer perceptron with weight decay performs better. For the growing, is the support vector machine that performs better. And for the unpredictable pattern, is the multilayer perceptron. Remember, unpredictable pattern comes with noise. And because the MLP, what it does is increases the H to make it large, okay? It performs better compared to SVM and MLPW, okay? Now, if you look at it, you want to ask yourself the question, but MLP, one is with weight decay, the other one is without weight decay. Why is it that perform better for periodic and not this? The reason is simple. Adding weight decay to MLP mimic structural risk minimization. Support vector machine is based on structural risk minimization, okay? MLP is not. But when you add weight decay to MLP, it will mimic, it's as if it's doing a structural risk minimization, okay? That's just the plain English. That's why MLP perform better here. So with this now, we can conclude that for periodic workload pattern, this is the algorithm to use. For growing workload pattern, this is the algorithm to use. For unpredictable workload pattern, this is the algorithm to use. Great. We are moving on. So we can accept our hypothesis. Remember, our hypothesis is that prediction accuracy is increased by using different algorithms for different workload patterns. So we've proved that. So we accept that hypothesis. We didn't set up a null hypothesis. We are not interested. We are only interested in that it's either we accept or we reject. That's all. No middle way. Okay. So we have that. Now, the problem is we've now proved that for different types of workload pattern, using different types of algorithm, we increase the accuracy. We've proved that. The question is, how do you set this up? Look, we're talking about streaming here, data that is coming in. So, and you turn them to window. So how do you set up your system to be able to do what we have proved? And that is where our autoscaling, self-autoscaling comes in. So we went into the theory, to software engineering theory, and look at what is referred to as autonomic system. Autonomic system. Now, autonomic system is simple. It's a system whereby it can react to external stimuli and use that internal reaction to change its state in order to affect what is coming. That's autonomic system. And the typical autonomic system is just that. You have the real world, you have the autonomic element, and you have the computing environment. That's all. So what we did now is to map this autonomic system into our auto-scaling system. We map the real world into our cloud workload usage. It can be anything, okay? We map the autonomic element into the auto-scaling autonomic system, which include our prediction and so on and so forth. And we have that into our cloud computing scaling. And that's the mapping. And then with that, we generate what we call a projection of what we want to do. This is what we're interested in. And the projection of the cloud auto-scaling is what we have here. We have a predictor, we have a decision maker. Okay? So now, how do we implement? We've succeeded in designing something using autonomic elements, but how do we implement that? How do we implement it? So, went back to software engineering again. Those of us who are conversant with software engineering will know something about design pattern and architectural pattern. Okay? If you are not, you can do it. Among the design pattern, there's so many of them. We look at two of them. We look at strategy design pattern and we look at template. Now, strategy design pattern gives us two things. It gives us what we call the strategy, and it gives us the context. So our strategy are the algorithms. That's our strategy. So in this case, we've implemented only 3. It can be any number, doesn't really matter. That's our strategy. So this setup can pick whichever one here. Number 2, where do you apply this algorithm? You apply it to a context. Our context is the workload. Remember, the workload is streaming in. So this pick up the workload at a particular window and partition them either to growing, periodic, and unpredictable. And based on that, this can choose the correct algorithm to apply. Okay? Now, this is the design of the system. I'm not showing you about the programming. The programming is something else. Anybody can program it. Okay? So that's what we did. Now, 2 things here we are able to get. Number 1, you can see that template is within here. Template means that I can replace the superclass with any of the subclass at any time during runtime. That's what template means. Okay? So I can do that. And number 2 here, we design a system that can be expanded infinitely. For example, the algorithm, you can expand it. And if tomorrow you now find out another type of workload that is different from these 3, you can easily add it to the subclass here. That's all. So, and that's the principle of software engineering, and that is our self-adaptive prediction suite. Self-adaptive in the sense that this can partition the workload into this, and this can actually choose whichever algorithm is corresponding to that. It's self-adaptive. It works at runtime. You don't need to do anything. It's runtime thing. Okay? So now, so we have that, and then we go back to our starting point architecture. You remember, our starting point architecture is that, and we plug in our self-adaptive workload prediction there. Okay? So we're done with that. But we still have this to deal with. We can now partition the workload into different types. We can choose the algorithm that works better. We can do that. But after that, we have a prediction. But we need to make a decision in terms of cost driven. And I won't spend a lot of time on that. I'll just quickly go back and say, we started by talking about reactive nature. We've taken care of that. The next thing is configuration difficulty, which is decision making. And we want to take care of that. Okay? Now, we carry out a study in terms of different types of configuration parameters. And based on our study, generally, Amazon, Microsoft, IBM, Google, all of them, they use a variant of these 6 configuration parameters. The first one is the upper threshold, the lower threshold, the scale-up condition duration, the scale-down condition duration, the scale-up cooling down period, and the scale-down cooling down period. Okay? Now, when you provision a service, and the service is no more adequate for what you are doing, you scale it up. when you provision a service and the service is too much, you scale it down. Okay, that's what we mean by upper threshold, lower threshold, and you have fluctuating between those thresholds, and then you have the scale up, you have the scale down condition, and then you have a period of cool down. It may be few microseconds. That period is important. Cool down condition for the scale down, and the cool down condition for the scale up. Okay, so you have that, and so using that now, we want to use that in our cost-driven decision making. Okay? Now, what does the cost-driven decision try to do? It tries to strive to find an optimum configuration which happens the least scaling cost to the client. That's just the purpose. That is better said than done. How do you do that? Remember, the configuration is huge. Traversing the configuration takes a lot of time. Okay? For example, if CPU utilization is a performance indicator, there are other indicators, but let's limit ourselves to CPU utilization. Okay? And you have the duration parameters between 0 and 5 minutes. Okay? And in that case, those 6 configurations will show you have 6 million different configurations you can have with those 6 parameters. Okay? Now let's take the upper hand, the 5 minutes. If I want to do that, the searching will take 61 years. 61 years. Let's even assume that on average is 1 minute. On average is 1 minute. Are you with me? Now that will drop down to around 5-point-something months. Now, do you want to wait for a resource provision that take 5 months to provision? No. And that's why the company, they are using the reactive. They just put it out there. They don't even think about it. Okay? So what's the solution to this? Yeah. We find a solution using genetic algorithm. Now, in today's presentation, I'm not going to present genetic algorithm. I'm not going to go into the arithmetic. We publish a journal paper on that. If you want, you can read it. So we use genetic algorithm. Genetic algorithm can be complex to set up. So, and applying that, we look at 2 things. Based on our study, startup companies prefer to reduce their resource cost. Larger businesses, Google and other, they have a lot of money, they prefer to reduce their SLA violation cost. Okay? So based on these 2, we can actually conduct a series of simulations. So the first thing we do is to fix the cost of resources. That's our CR. And in that case, our focus is that SLA cost is more important. So we fix the cost of resources, and we look at the SLA cost, and we look at the number of rented virtual machine, and then the violation. So if you look at this, let me do that. Okay? You discover that for SLA cost of 20, there's no violation. For cost of 25, there's no violation. So whichever one you choose here, it will give you the same number of rented and 0 violation. Which means that you have 3 configurations. You know those 6 parameters? This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They are valid for them. So you can choose any of those configurations. If what is important to you is the SLA cost. Now, if what is important to you is the resource cost, then we have that too. We fix the SLA, then we vary the resource cost, and then we come to a conclusion here. See that? Whatever you do, what you have there is the same number of rented. So which means you can choose this or this or this if what is important to you is the resource cost. Now, this table took almost 1 month to generate, so but that's just the summary, okay? Now, and then there's the whole lot of arithmetic in here, okay? So, and then the next thing we did, you remember at the beginning, we discounted the database layer. Our assumption is that database layer has no effect on the other layer. Are you following my argument? Because when you are doing research, you have to be following. So our assumption at the beginning is that database layer has no effect. So we discount it. Now we need to show that that is true. Okay? Now, if it is true, then all we have done is good. But if it is not true, we're in trouble. Okay? So we focus on the database layer, and then we set up the impact, and then we use the Queen network module is similar to Eden Markov module. And then we use the layer, Queen network module, to do, and our hypothesis is incorporating database tier has little impact on the business tier scaling decision. That's our hypothesis. And we tend to actually show that. So our theoretical foundation is using response time to measure quality of service indicator. Okay? And then from Q network module theory, response time of the business tier depends only on each service demand and its workload, which are independent of the database tier. That's what theory told us. That's theoretical. But can we prove that? Okay? So we then move on to try to prove that. So we set up 3 simulations. We set up a service with no database tier. Remember, at the beginning we have 3 layers. This time for A, we remove the database layer. The second one, we set up all the 3 layers. This time we give unlimited database tier. We increase the memory, we increase the storage and everything. And then the third one, we set up the 3 layer, but this time the database tier has limited capacity. That is, we give it the same capacity or less with the other layers. So we set those 3 simulations, we perform our experiment, and this is our result. As you can see, service A with no database layer makes the same scaling decision as service B with unlimited database layer, and the same scaling decision as service C with limited database layer. Okay? So, and that's good because we have proven that our assumption to start with actually work for us, and then we can accept our hypothesis. Incorporating database tier has little impact on the business scaling, so we can accept that hypothesis. However, we discovered that, let me go back, we discovered 3 things that although it has no impact, okay, but we discovered that number 1, adding a database increases the resource cost. We discovered that. It has no impact, but adding it increases the resource cost, and adding a database increases the SLA evaluation cost. This is different from number of violations. We're talking about the cost. It's the same number of violations, but the cost now is skyrocketing. Okay? So those are the things that we discover. Although we can accept our hypothesis that what we have done is right, but now we are discovering something that needs some food of thought. Okay? In any research, you want to be able to test, evaluate your result. If you don't evaluate it, then it doesn't make any sense. Now, if you want to evaluate something, you want to compare orange with orange, apple with apple. Remember, at the beginning we set up, we talked about this, okay? So we didn't choose this just randomly. We actually settle on those seeds because we know that Amazon uses these 6 exactly. That's what they use. Other, Microsoft, Google, all of them uses variant. They can use 4 and 2 other ones. In fact, Google defined about 10, but you can match them to what Amazon, this is what you have, is those 6. So we now compare what we did with Amazon. Simple. We have the same setup as Amazon. We compare, and on the left is our system, on the right is our Amazon. Okay? In terms of resource cost comparison, we did better than Amazon in all the 3 patterns. Okay? Number 2, in terms of SLA valuation, we did better compared to Amazon in all the 3. Okay? Also, in terms of scaling costs, our system performs better compared to Amazon. Well, you may want to ask the question, is Amazon using our system? The answer is no, because they discovered that it will cost them a lot of money to set up. So, but it's, I think it's worth doing, and and what we gain is that we have, compared to Amazon, we have 12% in environment with periodic workload, 25% better in the environment with growing workload, and 10.6% in the unpredictable. The reason why Amazon is not using it is that they do not want to set up the infrastructure that will actually partition the workload into the 3 different workloads, because that's the most expensive part of it. The moment you do that, the rest is simple. But to do that, you need a lot of gadgets. So, and but we are okay. We started with something and we ended up with something that we think is good for us. A number of publications, these are just examples. I think we had 9 or 10 conference papers. This one is showing 5. I think we had 6 or so journals. This is showing you the most recent of them in terms of journal that are published in the research. So, and that's what we have. I think I've talked enough. Thank you. Any question? It was heavy. Well, it's a summary of something that took almost 7 to 8 years. So, and it's not just one person working. You have 3 master students, 2 PhD, 1 postdoctoral, then you have 2 professors. So it's not a walk off. So I'm just giving you the dates of what we did. Okay, that's and the focus here is that you can do research and use machine learning in other areas other than big data. Okay, that's number 1. Number 2, it gives you an idea how do you set up, especially when you are using a quantitative analysis approach with the methodology, how do you set up your something, and because you have the theoretical perspective, which is quantitative in nature, there's the numerical aspect which you can use to validate, and so on and so forth. That's the whole idea about it. Okay, and you can apply it to anything you want to apply it to. It works exactly the same way. Works exactly the same way. Okay? The only thing is that the starting point, you see, some of these thinking, they are abstract. At the beginning, you don't even know whether they work or they do not work. But in research, your headache is not whether they work or not. Your headache is formulating. Even if you end up to say that it doesn't work, it's still a research. It's not always you accept hypothesis. Often you reject. Often you define null hypothesis. Okay? Are you getting my point? Yeah. So don't have the illusion that, okay, my hypothesis has to be accepted. No. You're already making a decision that you don't know anything about. If at the end of the day, the hypothesis is acceptable, it's okay. If it is not acceptable, it's rejected, it's okay also. It's research. Yeah. Okay? Yeah. So I want to thank everybody for coming. It's been nice. We've had a wonderful cameraman, in the person of Dan. By the way, I've known Dan for a very long time, and I think over 20 years now. He's looking better than me. He's looking younger all the time. I'm getting older. So I appreciate the effort you are putting in. All the big people, they are not here, but I want to thank Dr. Du. She coordinated the first time when I came for 6 weeks. Even this second time, she coordinated everything, sending all those emails and or whatever. And she has done a wonderful job. I want to appreciate the pious graduate students also. You know where I came from. We have a ready-made presentation. All you need to come is plug in or do it. But here you need to carry a lot of gadget to do it, and without having people that can actually help you, this will not be possible. Two people that are not here, Professor Pius, I've never met him before until roughly about 3 months ago. He's been a wonderful guy. He's one of the most hardworking person I've ever come across. And I wonder how he does it, but I don't know. You are here, even if you are here 7:30 a.m. in the morning, his car is parked. And if you are leaving the campus, the car is still parked there. And you find him on Saturday also. I think these are wonderful people that I believe the university need to keep and use. And of course, Professor Joe, we've known each other for a very long time. The first time I met him was about 39 years ago. I was a second year computer science honor program. He was a very young lecturer, exuberant, and he came, he taught us structural programming. In those days, there's a language called PL1, Programming Language 1, and eventually he taught also assembly language, a course, and then he left for his PhD. And then we don't see each other again. By the time he was back, I was a lecturer in the same department, and here we are today. So it's been about 39 years. I know his family very well. I know his children. The first one I carried her when she was a few days old. She's now a medical doctor, married with children. So you can see the connection. You see, in life, you meet people, you don't know where you're going to meet them again, and that connection continues. And I believe people like him, Professor Joe, Professor Pius, Dan, and all of them, they are resource that cannot just be discounted. Okay? A university environment needs people like them to survive. And because when it comes to research, supervising graduate students and all these things, you need a level of experience that need to come into play to be able to do that. And you need people that do have some of that experience to pass on to the younger people, and the younger people can develop and become leaders of tomorrow. So it's a pleasure coming back again. I'm not sure whether I will ever show up here again, but my body is telling me, no, I'm not coming back here again. But you don't know, probably, one day I'll show up again. But even if I do, the maximum length of time I'm going to stay is 2 weeks. I've already settled that with myself. So that's the maximum I'll stay, not anything longer than that. So thank you very much, everybody, and thank you for coming.